The next extended use scenario we want to look at is the management adds an employee, but instead of looking at this one, it is shorter, so we are going to use this one as our example to work with together. So we're going to start off on a brand new draw.io page. So you're going to open up a brand new draw.io document, and let's go ahead and start adding our information. So you'll want to add the frame last. So we're going to start off by adding our actor. So I'm going to come down here to UML, and you can see we have all these little elements. If I hover over it, you'll see the bigger version of it, so it's easier to know if you're choosing the right one. So I'm going to grab the actor because my interactions always start off with an actor interacting with the system. So coming over here, we see scenario starts an employee list page, manager clicks add plus. So manager is going to be our actor. So I'm going to add that name, manager. All right, now we just pull it over here and doing this the long way by using my arrow keys, and that is because if I tried to set it here, it does this weird thing. So I'm using my arrow keys on purpose. All right, so the first thing it does is we talk to our user interface. So I need an object box here. I'm going to line it up at the top, and I'm going to label it user interface. Oops. Oh. All right, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so you can see what's happening a little better. Okay, so now I have manager calls user interface returns new employee. So no other classes to add. And I'll say this, one thing I like to do when I'm transferring this over is I like to add all my classes in first. So I just get them lined up where they need to be, and then I deal with the messaging. Let me jump back over here. So I'm going to scroll down. So the user is entering in all that information. The manager calls user interface. So we have another interaction here with the user interface. Then the user interface calls the user list. So we need another object. We know that this object has been in existence because it's the user list. We're not creating this user list. We are communicating with it. So it goes up here at the top. So again, just lining these up as they're coming into a use in our extended use scenario. So user interface calls user list. User list calls employee constructor. So at this point, we're going to be creating a new employee. So I don't know exactly where this is going to line up, but I'm going to set it down here. We know it's not going to line up at the top because we're using a constructor. So we're creating the object. So I'm just going to set it down here for now. And I'm going to write employee. And employee returns new employee object to user list. User list returns, that is all the classes that we're going to need. So I have that set up right. I'm going to pull these lifelines down just a little bit here. I will fix up all these little details before submitting, obviously, because we want our stuff to look nice. But until then, this is just a rough draft. So I'm going to zoom out a little so we can actually, what I want to do is space these out. So those messages can have a lot of information in them, the ones with our method calls. And so having our objects spaced out will help make our diagram look more neat. And you'll have to excuse me, I do have a bit of a stuffed up nose, so I am not saying some of my words right, but I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start having our calls. We're going to start writing our calls in with our message arrows. So manager calls user interface, and I'm just going to copy the methods here. I'm going to say copy, and I'm just going to pull them over and set them on top of the lines. But first we need the lines, right? So I'm going to come over here and look for the lines. So when I hover my mouse over, I can see the message line. It just says dispatch on top. I'm going to grab this and pull it over here. I am actually, just because I have experience using this and I know what to do and what not to do, I'm not going to connect it up right away. It will cause me problems if I immediately connect it up. First of all, you have to deal with that. But second of all, we need our execution occurrence anyway, so I'm just going to put these roughly where I want them. So I'm going to put my message there, my message line, and I'm going to paste the information in. And I'm going to take out this layout specification here. There we go. So now I have display new employee form. And now what happens next? Well, we are returning, oops, that's the wrong one. I'm going to pull this over here. We're returning the new employee form to the manager. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to go find my message return line. It's right here. See how it has the dotted lines? And I'm going to paste that. And if you do a Control-Shift-V or Command-Shift-V, it will paste it in the same font. So you don't have to worry about dealing with fixing font. Okay, so there we go. We have that first interaction. What's next? So now we have manager calls, user interface display, employee details. I'm just going to copy it up to here. And I'm going to grab my dispatch arrow. It's another interaction here. I'm going to paste that in there. Command-Shift-V. Make sure I add my final parenthesis there. Then we are going to, user interface is going to call the user list add user. So we're going to see this class call this class. I'm going to call my message, grab my message line again, and I'm going to put it a step lower, right? So we're going to bring it down a little. This is after this message, so it needs to be a little bit lower. I'm going to grab the method and the input. So I'm going to copy that. And we're going to paste it in here. It pasted an enter or a return, and so I'm going to remove that. So then the user list calls employee constructor. All right, let's call the constructor, copy, and I'm going to want to bring this down here so that we can make sure that the call is after our add user call. Bring this right here. So notice that the arrow is going to point to the box. Okay, it's not going to point to the lifeline, it's going to point to the box. This is when that box is created, that object box. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in there. And we'll fix up all these lines once we get the information down on the page. So then employee returns new employee object to the user list. So I'm going to copy that. We're going to grab a return line. So employee is going to return that object back to the user list, and we're just going to keep that pattern up of returning. So user list returns employee object to user interface. Grab my return line. Again, it's stepping down beneath the employee call or return call because this lifeline is displaying for us time, and that is happening after. So we want to reflect that. So user list then returns employee object to user interface. Oh, I already did that one. Okay. And then user interface returns employee object to manager. And I like this right here, employee details. I'm going to do this one instead because we are returning what the user called originally. Okay,